This week on GamerHeads, we welcome Blue Williams, freelance writer for thelootgaming.com and thewellreadmage.com, and we discuss Spider-Man, Moonfall Ultimate on the Switch. We also talk about crossplay compatibility, THQ's acquisition of Kingdoms of Amalur, and so much more. Get ready, because here's another episode of GamerHeads. And welcome to another episode of GamerHeads. My name is Roger, aka Rogue Leader 76, and joining me this week are my co-hosts Christian,
aka Fulgen,
and guest co-host Carrington.
Hey, aka Desert Fury 90.
It gets us every time.
I know. Like, I don't know why, but I find that very funny every week. So, we do have a jam-packed show today. We'll be talking about Spider-Man. We'll be talking about Moonfall Ultimate, another game that Christian did review. And we have some listener feedback, and then we'll go into our hot topic this week. Before I get into all that, though, I want to do a little icebreaker. So, the other day I was watching Twitch, and I went down this rabbit hole. It's like terrible if you go down this rabbit hole of Twitch. You see like the weirdest games being played, and the weirdest gamers playing games. And I ran into Billy Mitchell's stream.
Are you serious?
Yeah, of Donkey Kong. That guy is obsessed with Donkey Kong, like scary obsessed with that game. And one of the things that I saw on his Twitter, or I mean his Twitch, and it's also his Twitter as well, but on his Twitch stream it said video game player of the century. And I thought to myself, is this like a sliding century scale? Like, or is this like from 1882 to 1982? Like, maybe then I could give him that title, but I don't know if I could give it to him if it's like in the century, like of the, 20th century, the 21st, what, I don't know. So I wasn't quite sure, like, about that, but I'm sure that wasn't a title that somebody bestowed upon himself. I think that he probably made up that title himself.
Yeah.
So it got me thinking for the icebreaker then, what title would you give yourself for video games? And then what title do you think the gaming community would give you in regards to video games?
That is an interesting icebreaker, because I've never thought about anything like this. I'm just happy to have a title when I play certain games, like, in an MMO, they give you titles sometimes. Like, I will wear that loud and proud.
That's funny.
But myself, I don't know, Roger. What about you? I gotta think about this.
Oh, what title would I give myself? I think I would give myself the title of, he tries to play games. He tries really hard. And I think the gaming community would probably say, yep, that's probably a good title for you.
Oh, man. What makes you say that, Roger?
What makes me... have you ever seen any of my streams of games? Like, I'm not good. I'm good at RPGs because, like, I can grind, and then before I take on a boss, I can get to, like, 10 levels above what I'm supposed to be. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to, like, platformers or first-person shooters, I am terrible at those types of games.
You said you're pretty good at Splatoon 2, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not...
Are you walking it back now, Roger?
Well, yeah, that'd be my title. He's kind of good at Splatoon. What about you, Christian?
I like to consider myself kind of the jack of all trades of the video game space, where I like to play a little bit of everything, and I like to be at least average skill in everything that I can be. But I'm still not very good at a lot of things. I'm not very good at puzzle games. I'm not very good at like 4X turn-based strategy games. But I try and play a little bit of everything I can, and I notice that my kind of learning curve tends to be a little different than everyone else's because I tend to pick things up pretty quickly, but boy, do I plateau fast, and I just do not get better. I just remain average. Like I get to average very fast, but I don't get any better than average. So that's probably what I would call myself. What other people would call me is probably the video game psychopath. I've been called that in the past because I play a lot of video games, and I just kind of, I don't know, I don't emote a lot while I'm playing video games. I just kind of sit there and zone out and enjoy my experience.
Yeah. I would say that I would call you the trophy hunter, the platinum trophy hunter for sure.
Yeah. I'll wear that proudly. I do not have as much trophies as a decent amount of people, but I suppose no one ever will.
I bet you have more than Billy Mitchell does.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Are we gonna get? Oh, jeez.
I'm gonna get him on the show and ask him how many platinum trophies do you have on the PlayStation? He's like, there's only 2 games: Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. That's it.
Yep. You're probably right.
All right, Carrington.
Well, as far as my title, I would give myself probably something similar to Christian. Well, just good, but not great at everything. But I don't plateau. So I do have that going for me, at least I feel like I do. Because, there's just times where when I get into a game, when I really get into a game, I do get better. Like Destiny, Overwatch. And I did try speedrunning for a little bit. And that's actually quite fun to try and get into. It's time consuming, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If the gaming community, I have no idea. The pro player wannabe, I guess. Because playing Overwatch, I try and mimic my dude Poco from Philly Fusion because he's a diva player, but it never works out so well. You just ask the people I play with.
Well, I don't know. I played with you, and, well, I'm not good at it, so maybe that's why. But I'm like,
you should have seen me last night. It was bad.
Oh, really?
My friends were like, Carrington, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know right now. This is bad.
I don't know. I was watching the Overwatch league with you and Kyle, and I had no idea what was going on. You guys were like, whoa, did you see that? I'm like, I have no idea what is going on right now. But it was entertaining. So, all right, cool. Yeah. All right, well, let's go into then our next segment here. The GamerHeads News Flash. I have a few items here for the news. And if anyone has anything else that they want to include at the end here, you can obviously feel free to add any other news items that you have. The very first thing that I have that actually got me really excited, that THQ Nordic bought the rights to Kingdom of Amalur.
Mm-hmm.
And that came from Push Square. There's other sites too, but I found that on Push Square. Anybody play that game?
I have not.
I have not. Despite being on an indie podcast, I should have, but have not.
So, do you guys know the story behind that game at all?
Yes.
So Kurt Schilling started a video game company called 38 Studios. Is that right, Christian?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
And he was.
So I don't like him, but I have reasons, okay? But I do know the story. You are right. That is the name of the studio.
So he started a studio, and then he got like Todd McFarlane to do the artwork in this game, in the Kingdoms of Amalur. And then it was based off of what was the author's name? Gosh, this escapes me now. R.A. Salvador or something like that. I'm not sure, but it was a really famous series of books, like fantasy novels. And it was supposed to be an online game. And they asked the state of Rhode Island for I think it was $75 million to start up this company. And they gave it to them. And then things just fell apart. And it was just kind of, he knew what was happening and he didn't say anything and just closed the studio down. And all these developers were like, what the hell? We were making this game. Yeah. They ended up making the game. It was supposed to be an online game, but they ended up just finishing the game. And it's actually a really good game. It's really deep in regards to the RPG aspects of it. One of the things I really love about that game is that you can make a character any way you want. You can have like the character that I was making was like a thief who knew like dark magic that could do like poison and stuff like that. It was really awesome. So I'm hopeful that THQ will like do something with this game and maybe make it online. I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's so weird how THQ is just resurrecting all of these franchises that were long dormant. They're doing that with Darksiders right now, I know. And I'm sure that Kingdoms of Amalur may be next, but it may not be.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird.
Don't forget Time Splitters is on their list.
Time
also,
Splitters, that's right. Yeah, they're resurrecting Time Splitters. That's awesome.
That's crazy. The next item that I have here, I was going to mention this last week, but I forgot to. Amiibo. There's going to be Amiibo support in Diablo 3 on Switch. Now that...
Oh, yeah. I've never played a Diablo game, but I'm probably pick up for the Switch because you know, I can. And
You've never played any Diablo games?
No.
Never?
Yeah, it's never. I've looked at them. Does that count? Like, I've seen them.
I think I might have to triple dip on this game because I have it for the PS3, I have it for the PS4, and I might have to buy it for the Switch now.
It'll be fun taking it on the go.
I know, Christian. We'll have to lunch breaks.
Yeah, you can spend like the rest of your life in Diablo 3 just grinding indefinitely.
That's what I'm going to do.
Do it, Roger.
The rest of my life. The last item that I have here, actually, I thought this was interesting, is the Nielsen acquires Super Data Researcher to better track digital games and esports, and this was on CNET. So, yeah, so I think this, like, one thing that they're going to try to do is not only track the sales of the games, but then also they're trying to track like ticket sales and event sales and merchandise sales all on the esports side. So I don't know if this is going to give more, like, makes esports more legit, but it certainly seems that way.
Yeah. Interesting. Do any of you guys watch esports?
I watch
the Overwatch League.
Overwatch League, yeah.
I watch it regularly too. Like, I kept up with it and still do.
Oh, wow.
But that's the only esports I watch.
What was it about the Overwatch League in particular that made you guys kind of watch it and start watching esports?
For me personally, because I've tried getting into like League, and it's just not me. Because I don't understand League of Legends per se, and they don't do a good job to like trying to explain what's happening to a new user. But I knew Overwatch going into it, so that I did have that going for me, because Overwatch still has that. The Overwatch League still has that issue of not being able to correctly explain what's going on to someone who's never seen it before.
Yeah.
But I've played Overwatch so much, but so that by the time the Overwatch League was, it was a thing, I knew what was going on and could tell what was going on. And Roger can attest to that, because me and Kyle were nerding out and stuff.
Yeah.
I know, I had no idea. And I watched one, whatever, battle or something, whatever they call those. I don't know, match, I guess. And I was like, oh, it's cool. I mean, I enjoyed, like, my time hanging out with Carrington and Kyle, but I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah. I find watching esports way more enjoyable when I actually know the game that's being played, like you're saying, Carrington, because you play Overwatch and it's more enjoyable to watch Overwatch being played because of it. And that's why, like, the only esports I dipped my toe into was Counter-Strike, because I played a lot of Counter-Strike for a while, but it never really caught on for me. I just liked watching Counter-Strike because I could understand kind of what plays were big, and I could understand what the stakes were, and I could understand what was like a cool situation or a cool thing that just happened. Whereas I watch like Dota and I see people kill other people, and I'm like, okay, cool. I just play with people who aren't very good, so I've gotten pentakills in the past, and I didn't freak out. But I guess with those high stakes and with that much money in play, it can be interesting. And I watch football, I watch basketball, and I haven't played either of those sports in over 10, 15 years.
Wait, on a video game or in real life?
In real life, not the video game.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. it's interesting. Like, I find it fascinating how much money some of these players are making. And there's a documentary on Netflix about somebody's following a sports team. I don't know if you guys seen this at all, but it's interesting what their strategy. I mean, they get up in the morning, they have like team breakfast, and then they just sit there and play all day. And it's weird. It's weird to me because it's like, I mean, yeah, it's a sport, but not. I don't know. I just I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
As much as I love games, there's no way that I'd be like, yeah, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Well, Roger, you just wait until a Splatoon 2 team offers you 7 figures.
Yes.
That's never going to happen. I'm going to tell you that right now.
And I do have a question to ask you guys as well, though. Because I like speedrunning a lot, and one of my favorite speedrunners is ZFG. He mainly speedruns Ocarina of Time. He got recently picked up by an esports team. I don't know in what capacity he will be doing anything for them, but do you consider speedrunning an esports thing?
Wow, that's a good question. I would consider it at least tangentially related. I love watching speedruns. I'll watch SGDQ and AGDQ as much as I can every year because I just find that stuff fascinating. I find it interesting how much of these people's lives is dedicated to some weird game that you've never heard of.
Agreed. I don't know if I would count it as a e-sport per se, but I did find that interesting because that's fairly recent that happened, like within the past week or so. Because right now he has the record for Ocarina of Time, sitting at a whopping 3 hours, 57 minutes, and 48 seconds.
So he's a 100% runner? I see.
Yep. He only speedruns 100% for Ocarina of Time at the moment. But yeah, he got picked up recently. I can't remember the name of the esports team, but they mainly specialize in CSGO. I do know that much.
Interesting. I wonder if it's just because he's really good at kind of just optimizing situations. Would that be why?
Possibly. I'm not sure. He said he couldn't get into any explanations at the moment when he got hired. Okay. I was excited to see it happen. At least I'm happy for him because now he's making more money to do what he does.
That's cool. Would you consider Billy Mitchell esports star? No, I'm serious. If you consider like speedrunners, I mean, even though he's a cheater, I'm just saying, like, isn't that the beginning of esports? Like the whole like high score chasing stuff. I mean, that's kind of the same, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess that's where it all got started. Even if he is a cheater, then sure, yeah, he's an e-athlete. I mean, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's weird too because like then he'll, like when he's at live events, like he gets really weird about him playing the game too, and like. Mm-hmm. Wasn't there, like, Christian, you were telling me about, like, the interview with Dan Riker and somebody else, right? And he just, like, kind of got really weird about it. Anyway, we don't need to get into that, but it's just something that I was thinking about isn't that, like, the beginning of, like, esports? And even, like, our competition this past week for the Video Kid, that was kind of esportsy. I mean, a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I noticed the guy who won that, he's like in the top 100 for achievements in Xbox.
So. I know, isn't that crazy?
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. And it's still I guess an esports type thing. Maybe amateur esports more so.
You calling us amateurs?
Yes, very much so. Because I'm definitely an amateur.
Well, I guess that's just another news thing here, since we kind of transitioned to that. We did have the contest for the Video Kid, the high score contest, and the winner of that show, or that contest, was Get On My Level. That's their Twitter account, so congratulations to them. And then Frozen Slacker won the $20 Nintendo eShop gift card, so congrats to him as well. So yeah, it was a really fun competition. I could not believe how many people broke the 60,000 score. That was crazy.
Yeah, definitely. That's not an easy score to get.
No, ours was like 47.
Yeah.
It was 47. Yeah, it was like 2 houses and we were done. No, it was 47,000. So yeah, the entry to the contest was I thought it was pretty high, but man, people like it was a really awesome competition. So congrats to everybody that participated, and yeah, congrats to the winners too.
Yay.
Any other news? Does anybody have?
Yes.
Oh,
if you want to throw your life away like I'm about to, Civilization 6 was announced for the Switch.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, man.
Yep. There goes my life.
Oh,
guys,
man.
It's been great. I love being on the podcast, but come November, I'm just going to disappear.
Yeah, that's a dangerous place to put Civilization.
Yeah, it is. It's not on the other consoles, is it? Like the Xbox or PS4?
No.
I don't think it is. So that's huge.
Yeah,
that's
that
awesome.
is interesting.
I'm gonna have to buy a Switch for my wife now because she loves Civilization.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any games that she was just like, I have to have a Switch, right? But on her 3DS, I mean, she played, what was the Civ that was on there? Revolution or something like that. She played that thing to death. Like, she loved that game.
Huh.
So, I mean, it was either going to be Animal Crossing or if, like, this was a surprise. But one of those two games, if they came to the Switch, I knew that she'd be like, I want a Switch now. But I think, like, she would want to have a Switch of her own for, like, Civ. Like, she would love that. So,
yeah,
that's what I'm saving up for. She doesn't listen to this podcast, so she won't know what I'm saving up for Christmas.
Except this episode, she would just so happen to listen to.
She does follow us, but I think she just deletes the podcast. I'm not sure. Hopefully, because otherwise she knows what I'm getting her for Christmas. So anyway.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Anything else?
The Nintendo Direct was canceled, right, Carrington?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it was.
Indefinitely.
Delayed,
well,
until further notice.
Yeah.
There was not a replacement date or time announced yet, but while everyone gets situated in Japan after, it was an earthquake, wasn't it, this time?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They've had a few natural disasters, so it's just kind of hard to keep up with it, which is unfortunate, but yeah, it sucks. But
do you think the Civ 6 Switch announcement was a side effect of that delay?
I think it was going to be in that direct, and I was also Final Fantasy 15 Mobile was announced also the same day, which I think was supposed to be during that Nintendo Direct. I think the PR teams for those two companies, I don't think they changed anything. Like, oh, we're going to release this tweet at said time or whatever. Yeah. And didn't, edit it after the whole cancellation. So I do think they were supposed to be in those directs.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. And we do have listeners in Japan, so, hopefully everybody's okay over there. Yeah, so that was pretty scary. It was a pretty big earthquake, too. My brother actually lives in Japan, so yeah.
Last I heard, I haven't looked up the stats recently, but I know at least it was 4 confirmed dead, and I don't remember how many injured, but that was a few days ago. I haven't looked it up recently.
Yeah, and I think it was like 3.5 million people without power, too, so it was pretty scary times. So yeah. Anything else?
Nope.
That's all I got.
All right, then let's go into the games that we are reviewing. So the first game, Christian, you actually wrote a review for the game. The game was Moonfall Ultimate, and the review can be read on our site, GamerHeadsPodcast.podbean.com. We are actually going to get another site. Actually, we have a web developer working on a GamerHeads podcast website, so hopefully that'll be out there soon, but you can read our reviews right now on our Podbean site. But Christian, go ahead and talk about the game. What your thoughts were.
Yeah, we got a copy of Moonfall Ultimate courtesy of Wales Interactive for review, and it is out now, I think, on PC, Switch. I believe it also came to consoles, PS4 and Xbox One. And it is basically a side-scrolling action RPG with hand-drawn art, if you look at the game description. And it piqued my interest. It seems interesting. I could use a deep action RPG that I could play on my Switch. Unfortunately, it's not very good. It feels like a 2000s browser game, because I've played a lot of those as a 22-year-old who had access to the internet and a bunch of video games at my fingertips on the internet when Flash was really big in elementary school. So it feels very similar to one of those, in that it feels like it's lacking a little bit of polish. because there's like finer details that go into making an action RPG feel good, and there's just kind of a lack of like a crunch or connection with your hits and your strikes, and you're doing a lot of that in this game. You're standing in place, walking up to an enemy, and then you're smacking the attack button a bunch, and then you kill the enemy, and then hopefully you have enough health to get past the enemy, and then you keep going. There's not a lot of depth to it. You just kind of go through all the levels. It's pretty simple, pretty pared back. There's not like optional quests or side quests. So there's one quest, you accept the quest, and then you go to the level, and then after you like kill all the things in the level or get to the end, then the level's done, and you get booted out to the main area, and then you get the next quest, and then you just do that over and over and over for the whole thing. You can't grind. So they even like get rid of that satisfaction that you could garner from like grinding and making your character very powerful and way stronger than your opposition. They don't even let you do that. So it's just kind of, this weird, kind of uninteresting action RPG. And I think that they could have had something special, because the action RPG genre isn't something that's tapped into very much on the Switch right now. But yeah. I think if they continue patching it, they could get the combat in a bit of a better place. And if they add some more to this game, it could be in a better spot. But yeah, right now, I think there's nothing to really make it stand out in the like extremely large list of weekly eShop releases. And if you do pick it up, this here Moonfall Ultimate, turn off your Joy-Con vibrations, because whenever you fight a boss, it sounds like a chainsaw. So be careful. I care about your hands, so turn the vibration off. That's your pro tip for Moonfall Ultimate.
So what's the aspects of the RPG then in this game? Like, so you don't grind. Do you level up in this game?
You do, yeah. You do level up, and with every enemy you kill, you get XP, you get experience points. And then once you reach a certain threshold, you'll go to the menu, and then you'll put the points into a skill, and you'll put them into a stat to increase like your health or your damage output. And so I got to the point where it was just putting points into my strength, because that would increase my health regeneration and it would increase my damage. And there isn't really a lot you can do movement wise, which is kind of disappointing, because in an action RPG, the action aspect is being able to avoid moves and being able to like use movement to your advantage to like overcome these challenges and obstacles that you may not necessarily be leveled up for. Whereas here it's just you stand in place and you can block, but the block animation takes so long that by the time you get the block up, the person already hit you. And then you have to put the block down and then slice again. So you're just kind of stuck in place. So every time you block, you're just going to get hit twice. So there's no point in like having any skill-based dodging or anything like that. You just plant yourself in front of the bad guys and keep hitting them. And there's no like extra enemies or anything like that. So you can't really grind your character up higher. And so the way to beat the game, I'll tell you this, the way to beat the game is to get a sword that has a regenerate health buff on it, because then you don't got to worry about your health at all. You just stand in front of the enemies, you keep slicing, and then you heal faster than they can attack you, and you win.
Oh, well, that's good strategy.
So you said the art. So you said the artwork was like a hand-drawn style. Would you say that it was charming to keep you like enjoyed through the game? And would you relate it to possibly something like West of Loathing?
West of Loathing is a good comparison. I have not played West of Loathing. I've actually played a lot of the browser-based predecessor to West of Loathing called Kingdom of Loathing. So I'm very familiar with the art style. But the Moonfall Ultimate art style is more colorful. It's more colored in. So it's hand-drawn in more of a sense like Rayman Legends or something like that. And the hand-drawn art was probably my favorite thing about it, because it actually does look pretty good. And it's pleasant to look at. They put you in some cool locales that are kind of interesting. They claim it's like this gothic kind of atmosphere and setting. And it kind of is, yeah. They get at that, and there's some cool backgrounds drawn for that. But every setting is just so played out, because like the same backgrounds are reused and recycled for like a whole act until you go to the next one. Then they recycle those. And I think what really holds the art style back from really shining is the lack of good animation work, because the animations are kind of really herky-jerky. and things just kind of like feel very mechanical. And there's one animation in the game where there's this one little collectible that you have to get to finish the quest, and it spins and rotates, and then there's like a bunch of like gold sparks that come off of it. I'm like, whoa, now that's how you should animate this game. That looks really cool.
Yeah.
And I think with better animation work, they could definitely make the game look very nice. I think the art style is very good, but the animation work is kind of tough to look at. But from what I understand, the PC version is seeing patches pretty often, and I believe they are currently patching the animation system as they have in the past. So maybe it's one to keep your eyes on, but right now you can stick with other things on your Switch.
Yeah, so that game came out. When did that game come out?
It came out, I want to say this Tuesday.
This past Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's out on Switch, PS4, Xbox, and PC. Did you say? Is that right?
Yep, you got it.
Okay. Cool. And then the other game that came out this Friday was a little game called Spider-Man, like this unknown character. Has anybody played this game? Heard of this game?
By some small studio called Insomniac Games.
Yeah, never heard of them. Yeah, in indie group.
Yeah, just a little indie group.
Yeah, what, 3 or 4 people working there. So Carrington, I know you've been playing this.
Yes, sir.
And Christian, did you beat it?
Yes, I did beat it. And
What?
I'm working on it. I'm trying to get 100% this weekend yet. I'm currently sitting at 90% while we're recording this.
Wow.
I'm trying.
I'm nowhere close to that.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm at like 20% right now.
I'd say that's where I'm about right there. But I have one more black cat thing to find, and then I'll have completed that line of side quests.
Ah, cool. I just completed those myself, actually.
So Christian, give your initial thoughts of the game.
Sure. I could give you like pretty much my final thoughts. I mean,
give your final thoughts and your initial thoughts. Yeah.
And my initial thoughts. Okay. So basically, I feel this Spider-Man PS4 game is essentially not all that different from the Spider-Man games that have come before, especially Spider-Man 2, because that's the one that I've played the most of. I've played a whole lot of Spider-Man 2, and I think this one takes a lot from Spider-Man 2, but it just does most things really well in a way that other Spider-Man games kind of haven't. Would you guys agree with that?
Mm-hmm. So far, yes.
So far, yes. Yeah, that's good. The combat is interesting. It's nice and fluid. This game clearly takes a lot of inspiration from the Arkham games.
Yes.
Because not only are those also superhero games, but they kind of influenced all action video games for a long time now, and especially the combat system. That's something that a lot of games have pulled from the Arkham series to great success. Like Shadow of Mordor just pulled the combat system basically wholesale, and I really enjoyed the combat there because of it, because I wasn't limited to punching people. In Shadow of Mordor, I could actually slice their heads off and watch orc blood squirt out everywhere, which was very cathartic and pleasing. But in this game, this game's a little different. It uses the Arkham system somewhat, but it's not entirely the same. It's very fast-paced, and you do unlock gadgets in a similar fashion as you do in an Arkham game, but those gadgets are largely regulated to the combat. They are not gating or impeding your progress in any way. And so you kind of end up with this growing arsenal of things to use while you're in combat. And you can shoot webs, you can punch, you can fly off walls, you can web swing, kick. You can do a lot of different things, and there's no counter here like there is in the Arkham series. There's only a dodge. So you'll get the Spidey sense tingle, and then you'll dodge, and then you'll dodge the move basically whenever the Spider sense tingle happens. But if you get a good timing on that dodge, then you'll also smack them. You'll smack them, or you'll web them in the face and stun them for a little bit, because you ain't hitting Spider-Man, not my Spider-Man. Yeah, but they borrow from Arkham in the combat again, in that they throw different enemies your way. So they'll have like jetpack enemies that you have to attack differently, or guys with whips that'll like toss you down from the air and won't let you web swing around them as much. So you'll have to switch up your tactics and prioritize certain enemies accordingly. And there's also a finishing move where you can automatically take down any single enemy, which is, again, just like Arkham. But it kind of draws from Shadow of War, which I played through not too long ago, in that you don't get access to this finishing move by reaching a certain combo number, but instead you reach that finishing move by building up this bar. And once the bar reaches a certain threshold, you can do that finishing move, which is something Shadow of War did as well. Because in the other games, you could just like get to that combo number, and then you just mow through the enemies really quickly. Whereas in this, you're actually taking out enemies with your standard combos. You're not just doing these elimination moves. And another way that they kind of balance out that finishing move meter is that you can also use that to heal yourself. So there's a bit of a pull and tug with that combat system. Did you guys end up enjoying the combat system in Spider-Man so far?
Oh yeah, I love it.
Yes.
I think that thing that I love about it so much is because you feel like Spider-Man. It's really amazing, and just like every fight, like you can web them against the walls, or you can do different things where you can take one guy, web him up, and spin him around, and like throw him at other people. It's such a fun game. I think the combat is probably the best aspect of the game.
Yeah.
I did pre-order this game, so I got 3 suits that came unlocked for me. There's like 30 suits in the game, I think, that you can unlock.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So one of the suits I have is the Iron Spider suit, the one that is in the Avengers movie. And did you unlock that one, Christian, at all?
I have not yet, no.
Okay. Carrington, do you have that suit at all?
No, but I didn't pre-order it.
Okay. So when you get your focus bar up, then you can hit the R3 and the L3 buttons together, and then you have 4 extra arms come out, and you can take out anybody, like even the bigger thugs that you have to like web up and try to take them out, because you can't just go up there and punch them because they'll just block your punches. Once you have your Iron Spider arms out, then you can just walk up to them and just clobber them with those things. It's really fun. Like, I love it. The other thing I love about this game too is the aspect of exploring the city and how they have that all set up. Where like there's backpacks throughout the whole city, like 55 different backpacks where you can find where he just leaves his backpacks. He left. That was kind of weird. He's like, oh, an old backpack of mine from high school. I'm like, wait, what? There's 55 of these things all around town? Why did you leave 50? You littered New York. Like, New York has a problem because of you. Yeah. Then you have that, and then you have the monuments that you can go take pictures, and there's quite a few of those. And unlocking those types of things then also gains you points that you can like unlock different abilities or different moves and gadgets and such. It is such a good Spider-Man game. The one complaint I did hear, and it doesn't bother me as much, but I can see why people complain about this, is that they feel like the city of New York, it doesn't feel like really deep. Like, you'll run into like characters and they'll say the same thing, like, "Hey, there's Spider-Man. Can I get my autograph with you?" So a lot of the character talk is very similar. The NPC characters, I guess. But the one thing that I was so amazed when I found this out, somebody posted this on Twitter. They did voice acting. They recorded each line twice. One where he's just relaxed and he's just talking, and then the same line, but he's like in action. So like if you're swinging along and you get a telephone call from Aunt May, like Peter will be sounding like, "Oh, hey, Aunt May. Yeah, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Talk to you later." But if you are not swinging, you're like, "Hey, Aunt May. Yeah, I'll get to you as soon as I can. Talk to you later." Like, it's so amazing, like how, and it will transition in the middle. So if you're just standing there, not swinging, and then you start swinging, he'll transition into his like active, like he's like kind of tired, or not tired, but obviously he's doing something active in his voice. Like, just the little details like that is so amazing.
Yeah.
And if you're walking down on the street and you press the square button, Spider-Man does interact with the citizens, like with the finger guns and things like that, which I think is really nice touch as well.
Yeah, Roger, you were mentioning how a lot of people are talking about the open world design and the repetitive side stuff, and I think it's interesting how this game takes a lot of the traditional modern open world design philosophies, but also changes them in order to make them more accessible and just kind of less grating against the player. Like, for example, they'll keep you from constantly pausing and looking at your map by having a detective vision type ping, so that you see all of your icons that are around you, so that you don't have to always go out to your map, look around, place an icon, go back out of your map, and then go to the icon. You can just ping, and then boom, you see in the distance where you want to end up going. And a lot of the stuff that you want to know where it is, that stuff usually shows up on your minimap automatically, which is really nice. But there are side crimes that you were mentioning, Roger, and you do run into these pretty often, and they have optional objectives to these little side crimes that'll just pop up. And I feel like the side objectives were to try and provide more of a challenge or to keep these side crimes more interesting, but it doesn't keep you from doing kind of the same thing a lot in the beginning, especially, which is just running into runaway vehicles all the time and spamming square a bunch. And the optional objectives, sometimes they're not very reasonable or realistic for the situation that you're tackling. Like, you'll be fighting 6 dudes, and then it'll be like, throw 10 guys against a building. And you're like, what am I supposed to do here? That's interesting. But I assume they'll probably get into that a little bit with a patch and hopefully fix that. But similar in the traditional open world sense, you hack into these radio towers on the map to reveal your icons and collectibles, and everything is unlocked on your map from the get-go. But a lot of the collectibles and stuff don't open up until you get further in the story, which is really interesting. Because like I was saying, those side missions, you're going to be stopping a lot of runaway cars, but more of these side crimes open up the further along you get into the story. And so by the time you finish the story, these side crimes that you run into, you're not going to run into the same one twice in a row very often, which is weird. I guess it's kind of like a drawback of them making this game open world, is that they wanted to give you access to these crimes right away, right from the outset, so that you could kind of familiarize yourself with them. But if you're going around Manhattan doing these crimes a lot, then it's just going to be the same thing over and over, and they haven't given you the variety yet, which is really weird, kind of how they do that. And it's kind of different for open world games, but it provides more variety if you get further along, which is nice.
So I would make an argument for the reason why they're very similar. And my argument would be that in the beginning of the game, and this is not a spoiler because this happens this is like the intro of the game, pretty much, like the tutorial, which I love how they did the tutorial where you're taking down the Kingpin. So the concept behind this is that you're Spider-Man, you've been doing this for 8 years or so, and you're going to take down the Kingpin, and you take down the Kingpin, and the Kingpin, you get the sense that yes, he was a crime lord, but he also kept somewhat order in the streets, right? Mm-hmm. So the crimes that you start seeing in the beginning of the game are just these petty thieves, right? Doing things and like, hey, like there's like nobody running these areas now. We can do these petty things. And as the time goes on, I guess like these gangs become more and more like bolden, and maybe more and more bad guys kind of I don't know, go in on these turfs. But I heard that it's pretty much becomes a war zone, which is crazy. In New York, right? But yeah, I mean, I can see why they did it that way. One, because if you're lower level, two, you're not gonna be able to do some of those harder side missions. Mm-hmm. But even at the earlier ones, I mean, there was one side mission where I did, it was a side quest, and I had to go down to the docks, and there was some kind of weapon deal going down, and there was like 5 people there, and I beat them. I'm like, well, that was pretty simple. And then like the 3 vans pull up and like 15 guys come out. I'm like, okay, whoa, I shouldn't have spoke too soon. So it's fun. I mean, you really feel like Spider-Man in this game.
I can understand from a story perspective how that stuff would make sense. Another thing that I like a lot about the Spider-Man PS4 is that the graphics are very good. The animation work, I think, in particular, is what really makes this game stand a cut above. Just swinging around, the little animation Spider-Man will do, or just watching things move is very entertaining because of how much work they must have put into those finer details in the animations.
Yeah.
Thing that I thought that they could work on in terms of the visuals, though, is the faces. Sometimes they look a little rubbery, and they should have called the Yakuza 0 people, because those guys have faces figured out. Because the Yakuza 0 faces look amazing. I think my theory, because there are other games recently that have come out that kind of have this kind of rubbery, stilted look to the faces. And I think it's because of mocap faces in particular, because it almost seems to me like it's not their faces moving, but like an outline of their faces that's moving, which is kind of how mocap happens. In my understanding is that they put little balls on their face and then they move them that way. And so like they'll try to make finer details like cheeks and stuff like that pinch, but I think it doesn't always come out looking extremely human. I think Mary Jane in particular, her face looks like a rubber band to me for some reason.
Didn't they use that technique for like LA Noir, right? Isn't that? Okay.
Yeah, the lip syncing tech was huge in LA Noir. Yeah. But it ended up looking weird because their faces would look like garbled messes sometimes. Which was really weird. In the Spider-Man game, my least favorite part was probably the story, having finished all the story stuff. Because,
really?
Yeah, I never really felt invested in it. I never felt it was groundbreaking. It always clearly telegraphs where it's going to go. And there isn't really anything all that original in the superhero story space like the Homecoming movie did. I think it allows for some cool moments. There are some cool moments sprinkled throughout this game. But I think it doesn't really offer anything to really draw you in or make you care about a lot of the characters. There are a couple that you do care about. But I just felt like, I don't know, the villains in particular, I felt like they didn't handle extremely well. There are 3 acts to the Spider-Man game. And in the end of the second act, things kind of take a turn. And the turn is something that they showed in an E3 trailer that I saw. And so I always assumed that this E3 trailer was kind of how this game was going to get kick off, how things were going to get rolling. And I got to the end of the second act, 2/3 through the game, and then I saw it happen. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I kind of feel like that's how the game should have started. And despite the fact that it's a bit derivative, I think that it would have been so great to give you more time with these villains and to be able to experience just the city and these villains and Spider-Man and the villains' relationships together. But instead, they just kind of end up being these one-off boss fights that you'll just kind of deal with, and you'll pick them off a couple at a time, which makes them feel really weird and inconsequential almost. And they don't give the villains a lot of time to breathe. There's one villain in particular that they give a major focus, but I just didn't feel like it really went anywhere interesting because his character isn't very interesting, and they telegraph that this character is the villain almost immediately. And I don't know a lot about Spider-Man. I've seen the movies. I haven't read any of the comics. So I'm not really familiar with any of these characters, but it was pretty clear kind of where things were going. And I think there's stealth sections where you play as other characters, and those were interesting. Some of them were better than other ones, whereas some of the stealth sections you're playing as other characters, I felt like they were almost inconsequential to the plot, and I feel like they could have used those sections more effectively to contribute a different perspective. There's one in particular where you're controlling someone on the ground and you see Spider-Man above you, and I thought that was awesome. I thought that was really cool and a really cool way of handling that different perspective from Spider-Man, and I feel like they could have done more with that. But then again, those sections are also optional, so it's not entirely egregious negative. I wouldn't say that's any reason that you shouldn't play this game, but overall, I very much enjoyed it, and I look forward to 100%ing it in the near future, hopefully.
Nice.
Very nice.
Okay, well, yeah, it's out now on the PS4.
And it's amazing. And I must say, too, just real quick, because Christian, you talked a lot about Spider-Man already, but I just want to add 2 things. One, there is a Twitter feed within the game that's found.
Yes. And
the amount of detail that's in that Twitter feed is insane. So there's one girl, I read it, that says something I'm not going to spoil it because it is what happens is a kind of a spoiler kind of thing. But then she ends up, just in the Twitter feed, she actually ends up dying, and her parents talk about it because of a certain event that happens in the game. And I just thought that amount of detail in there was just a nice touch. And shirtless Spider-Man is the best thing in the world.
Miller?
Yes, sir. He is in the game. Shirtless Spider-Man is in the game, and I was so happy to see it.
And when you 100% the game, there's a little special costume in there for anyone who likes the shirtless Spider-Man.
I will definitely be getting it then.
They go
I love
above and
shirtless
beyond.
Spider-Man.
Definitely will not be getting it then. So.
Come on.
Well,
hey.
Yeah.
I did tweet it out that I found shirtless Spider-Man, and Greg Miller liked it. So I feel good.
Really? That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Speaking of the little touches, there's no noticeable Sony product placement in this video game. This practiced restraint. I don't understand why, but they did it. There's a portable handheld gaming console that you find as a collectible, and it is not a PlayStation Vita. That blew me away. I was like, are you serious?
It was not a Switch.
No, it was not. But they set themselves up for that. There's Times Square and there's screens everywhere, and none of them are Sony product.
They don't even know about the Vita. They forgot about that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably
we
why.
made the Vita. Yeah.
But good job. I applaud them for that. No product placement. Good job.
And there's a ton of Easter eggs, and you should just enjoy them. I'm not going to spoil any of them, but just enjoy them.
Yeah, it's a good game. I think anybody that is even remotely a little bit of a Spider-Man fan would love this game. Like, I am... Like, if you see my house, like my office, it has all these Spider-Man posters, different stuff, and Spider-Man's my guy. Like, I love Spider-Man. My son's room is all Spider-Man, decked out with all Spider-Man sheets, curtains, posters all over the wall. Like, he loves Spider-Man, I love Spider-Man, and my daughter, then, that's the other thing I'll say one last thing. So she came downstairs, like, I got up at like 6 o'clock, because this is really, the only times I really get to game are like really late at night, and I can't stay up really late anymore, and because I'm old, and really early in the morning, which I seem to do better at as I got older. But so I got up like super early on Saturday morning to play this game, because I played a little bit on Friday night, and I was super tired because it was a long day at work, and I didn't take the day off like some people I know. And and so I got up at like 5:30 the next morning, and I was playing it, and my daughter comes running downstairs, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" It's a weekend. Like, she will not get up on a school day like at 5:30, but certainly a weekend. And she comes running, and she's like, "Are you playing Spider-Man?" I said, "Yeah." She's like, "Can I watch?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then she's like, "Can I play?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can play." And then she got a bunch of backpacks for me. She loved it. Just watching her like swing through the city, it was so fun. And you just tell, she's like, "Oh my gosh, this is so great!" And I'm like, "Oh man, this is like, I hope like she looks back when she inherits the GamerHeads podcast when she's in her 20s, and she says, I remember playing Spider-Man with my dad. It was awesome."
Yeah.
So that'll be her icebreaker. What is the gaming moment that you remember? And she'll say Spider-Man. Anyway, sorry. Enough Spider-Man talk. Let's move on to listeners' feedback. Then we did actually have some listener feedback. And if you want to get a hold of us, Christian, how can people email us?
They can email us at info@gamerheadspodcast.com.
That's right. Or you can go on Twitter at GamerHeadsPC, or you can find us at Facebook. That's Facebook. Go ahead. No, Christian, it's your deal, dude. Go.
I got this. Facebook.com/GamerHeadsPodcast. Yes.
That's right. So we got some feedback from Chris from Play Comics. I asked anybody on the Twitter feeds, ask us some questions, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. So he asked a couple of them. So the first question that he has is, what game have you all always wanted to play but still haven't gotten around to? What about you, Carrington? What's a game that you've always wanted to play but haven't gotten around to yet?
Probably Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh, what? You've never played Shadow of the Colossus ever?
Ever. I own it.
That's right.
I can now say I'm a proud owner of Shadow of the Colossus. Nice. I just haven't touched it yet.
Yeah, you didn't have a PS2 or a PS3, right? Or did you?
This is correct. Nope.
Okay.
Nah. The PS4 is my first Sony console. Yeah, this is the first time I have owned all of the consoles in one generation.
Wow. That's awesome. Actually, you know what? To tell you the truth, this is the first time I've owned all consoles in one generation too. Yeah. I didn't realize that until you just said that. Because I was never a Microsoft guy. I know. I was never really a Microsoft guy. I won an Xbox 360, but that was when it was out already for a while. And then I bought the number 4, or I mean Xbox One. Sorry, because you guys. Because you and Kyle promised me many hours of really fun playing, and that hasn't happened yet. So
it's kind of dropped off a little bit. But when you first got it, we were all about that Battlefront Overwatch.
That's true. Yeah, we played a lot of Overwatch. We played some Battlefront 2, which wasn't good, but it was fun playing with you guys.
It's always fun.
What about you, Christian?
I think my list is getting shorter. The longer I live, the more of my long backlog I'm plowing through. Final Fantasy VI was on there for a long time, but I did that one, and Chrono Trigger as well, and I finished that one. But it's always these JRPGs that I got to get back to, and so the one that I would have to say is Final Fantasy IX. That's one I want to get to one of these days.
Yeah, I don't think I've played that one either.
I've heard great things about it. I'm very excited to get to it. I mean, I like the Final Fantasy series a lot. I've finished 1, 2, 10, 13, 15, and 7. I enjoyed 7 a lot. And so I've heard great things about 9, and I'd really like to play it at some point.
Nice. For myself, I would... So this is going to sound... this is going to sound dumb because I just got this game, but God of War. Because I bought it when it was on sale for $35, like a couple weeks ago, and I still haven't played it yet. So I really want to get to it. It's just that everything else that's been coming onto my plate, either from a review standpoint or from just Spider-Man, I just haven't had a chance to play it. And Octopath Traveler has taken up a lot of my time too, so that's a really fun game. The next question that he asked is, what's one system for the rest of your life? No modding, backwards compatibility, digital only, retro allowed. What's your pick?
Probably the GameCube for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
That's like, to me, that was like one of like the golden years of gaming for me personally. And I can still go back to those games and just have a fantastic time.
Cool.
What about you, Christian?
I'm going to have to take the cop-out easy answer and say the PlayStation 4, because I like my PlayStation 4, I like the controller, and because it's got a huge library, including things that have come out a long time ago in remastered form or otherwise. Like there's PS2 classics making their way there, and there's like plenty of remasters, like Shadow of the Colossus, Shenmue just came to the console, so I think that modern consoles are a great way to experience a lot of games that you missed that necessarily did not come out recently.
Good answer. I'm going to have to say my Switch, because really I play the Switch like constantly, and I really got into the indie scene because of the Switch. So I'm gonna have to say the Switch. I love the Switch. All right, well, let's take a break here, and then when we come back, we'll get into our hot topic. So stay tuned.
Hi, this is Michelle Madison from the Video Game Outsiders podcast. We've been churning out stupidity and gaming since 2004, and we would love for you to check us out. So visit videogameoutsiders.com for more information or find us anywhere podcasts are available.
Hey, it's Carrington from Real Dudes Podcast, and with me I have some fantastic co-hosts. Guys, why don't you introduce yourselves?
This is Andrew, coming to you from Lynchburg, Ohio.
This is Cody, coming from you also from Ohio.
And this is Kyle, coming to you straight from the armpits of West Virginia. We are an indie gaming podcast. We all share a love for games, and you can check out our show on Podbean. Just search for Real Dudes Podcast. You can also find us on iTunes, Google Play, really any of the podcasting outlets that you like to use. Again, that is Real Dudes Podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you love video games, you will love our show.
Do you like video games? Do you like to read? Alright, guys, I know that those two things usually don't go so well together, but my new book, The Minds Behind the Games, Interviews with Cult and Classic Video Game Developers, is kind of like an ESPN 30 for 30 collection of interviews with some of the coolest creators in video game history. We're talking iconic games, Deus Ex, Mortal Kombat, Wasteland, NBA Jam, not so iconic, E.T., Night Trap, indie games, Pro Wrestling X, Towerfall. If you love video games, you will love my book. If you know nothing about video games and want to get in the know, read my book. It's available wherever fine books are sold: Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, and of course my site, patrickhickeyjr.com. It's an awesome book. I had a ton of fun writing it. And simply put, if you want to get in the know and you want to find out stuff that's not even on Wikipedia, check it out. You won't regret it.
Do you remember the days when console games were pure simple fun? No look crates, season passes or crowdfunding. You just paid for the game and it was yours to keep. You didn't have to sit through hours of boring cutscenes, and there were no loading screens to keep you from the action. At Four Horses Games, we remember those days and we aim to bring them back. Miles and Kilo, our latest release on the Nintendo Switch, is pure action from start to finish. Run, jump, slide and swing your way across 36 action-packed levels as you and your dog try to escape a haunted island, battling bosses along the way. Still need more? 20 tough achievements and a time attack mode to keep you going that extra mile. Reviewers are saying that Miles and Kilo is a must-have title. Available now on the Nintendo Switch and coming to other consoles later this year.
And welcome back to GamerHeads. We are joined by Blue Williams, a games journalist. So welcome to the panel. This week's topic is something that is kind of in the news right now. And the topic is, why is crossplay compatible a big deal? And is it really a big deal? So I wanted to explore that with everybody on the panel here. Is crossplay compatible really that big of a deal? What do you guys, when I say guys, I mean in general, it's just the Wisconsin thing of guys, right? What do you all think? Is crossplay compatible really that big of a deal?
Yes.
Oh boy. Here we go.
Well, here's the thing,
ahead,
though. Like when I was a kid, like I just remember like dreaming, like wouldn't it be cool if like my friend with his Xbox and me with my GameCube, wouldn't it be cool if like we could play together instead of like having this system that where everyone's just, you know, confined to their one thing? Because that was the problem I had growing up was, you know, I had a GameCube or, you know, like an Xbox and a friend would have a PS3 or whatever. We just couldn't play with each other, even though we owned the same games. And, you know, I just was like, well, I bought an Xbox or Xbox 360 or whatever because of the exclusives and stuff. And I'm sure they got their PlayStation for their reasons as well, right? But with the games that are the same, that are on the same platform, why does it matter whether they're confined to their own ecosystem? And now it's not a big deal anymore, or it is a big deal because now, like when I just met someone new for the first time a couple days ago. And even though I own all the systems, he was like, hey, do you play Fortnite? I play on PC. And I'm like, I don't really play on PC, but I'll play on my Switch. But because of that, it's not a big deal because now, it is a big deal because now it doesn't matter because we can just play with each other still. And I find that amazing and fantastic and just exciting. We live in an exciting time.
Unless you had it on PS4.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which
and
I
that's
do find
this.
interesting as well. Real quick, just because Bethesda is holding their next game hostage, which is Elder Scrolls Legends, I think, which does require crossplay compatibility. It requires it. And they have said, hey, if there's a console that doesn't allow it, we're not releasing it on that system. They've just flat out said it.
Bold move.
What do you think? What do you think, Blue? Do you think that's a big deal, crossplay compatibility?
Yeah, I think that it's becoming a bigger deal. And like on the one hand, I understand because after all these years of the console wars, having Sony, you know, play nice on the same team with Xbox, that's like asking the Packers and the Bears to cooperate so they can both get to the Super Bowl. You know, I mean, it just, you know, that kind of thing doesn't happen. But the other side of it is that like Sony says, well, we're confident that the best experience is on the PlayStation. So then if you're truly that confident that you're the best, then what's the harm in allowing cross compatibility? Because I mean, then people might say, well, this game plays so much better over on Sony. I'm going to get one of those and play it there. Or they might not. But
yeah. So I think and Christian, sorry, I'm going to jump in here for a minute if you were going to say something.
No.
But one thing that the one thing that I will say is what if like if you had to lower the performance of a game to make it cross-play compatible, right? So once if it's a good experience on Sony and Sony can provide a really good experience for players that are on a Sony system, but because it's crossplay with Nintendo or crossplay with Xbox, they have to lower the performance of the game overall, so that way the game can be crossplay. Like, is that a big deal then if they have to lower the performance of a game so that it can be crossplay compatible?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that would happen?
So. I do. I think so.
Why is that? So I'm curious to hear your perspective.
So for instance, like a PC and like console, like you can have a lot stronger PC game, right? So they have to bring the game down on the PC so that way it can be compatible with a console game, right?
No.
What?
Like with Fortnite? Like Fortnite looks amazing on my PC.
Fortnite's not a good example. But what if it's like a game that's like the makers of the game have to bring down the game, like the graphics or even the mechanics of the game, so that the way it can, well, not mechanics maybe, but just so that way the game can be played on a console. But somebody that has like a really good computer, like, are they going to lose out because the game's not as good because of the fact that they want to make a crossplay with other consoles?
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I would see performance being an issue would be with like frame rates, because it's like the Switch. I probably can't handle
frame rates. That's what I was gonna say. Okay. That's what I meant to say.
When you said performance, I'm like, it doesn't matter how the game looks, but frame rates I could see, and I could see that. I could see people probably making a big deal about something like that. Because I know Destiny is a big reason why it's not crossplay compatible, and setting aside the whole keyboard and mouse debate, it's just the fact that the PC player can experience Destiny 2 at basically unlimited. Whatever your system can handle, that's what Destiny 2 will run at. Whereas the consoles, it is locked in at 30.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So is that fair? Is that fair to PC players then, if you're going to make a cross-play game that like they go out and buy all this really awesome stuff and then the game's not even at the same, it's not as powerful because they have to scale it back because they want to make it compatible with console games.
What I think is interesting is how well Epic nailed it with Fortnite, because this is one of the first games where cross-play compatibility was actually a big deal. To the extent that they accidentally turned it on and PS4 people were playing with Xbox people, and the only way they noticed it was because of gamer tag names. But I think that they nailed it so well because they segment these communities and they make you opt in for a situation that you're talking about, Roger, where the hardware is different. So for example, if you're playing with a keyboard and mouse on PS4, you will only be matched with other PS4 players on keyboard and mouse or PC players. Or if you're playing on Switch, you'll only be matched with Switch players unless you opt in to play with any console players.
Interesting. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that that's an excellent system and a good way to get around what you're saying, Roger. But that's not to say that every game that implements crossplay is going to make the same concessions and do it as well as Fortnite does it. But I think that if they do, I see no reason why not.
Yeah.
And the thing, too, that I find interesting, like all it takes is for the big houses, Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony, to say yes to make it available. Because like you said, Christian, Epic accidentally turned it on. So it's on the developer side for them to turn it on or off, which I find fascinating. Because for the longest time, I thought it was, on Microsoft and Sony, like they would be handling that because it's their servers, essentially. Their networking basically spine, so to speak. But no, it's on the developers, which it just fascinates me that it's up to the big three to really decide whether or not that's a thing or not.
Yeah.
Would you buy a system over another system if you knew that the game was supported on crossplay? Like, so for instance, like let's say Sony does keep the stance and they're like, we're not going to allow crossplay. Would you buy another system because of that, or buy the game for another system because of that?
Well, considering that the PS4 is my first Sony console, going forward, I don't know, their single player experiences are actually really good, and so I have yet to actually play a multiplayer game on my PS4, so I probably would, but only because I've only played single player games on my PlayStation.
What about you, Blue? Do you take that in consideration when you're buying a game? Like, oh, if they're gonna offer crossplay, I'm gonna buy the game on a certain system over another?
No, not really. I mean, I think like of the three current gen consoles that we have, I just use the Xbox the least. And so just if there's a game that's available somewhere else besides only the Xbox, I'll get it somewhere else because I know then I'll play it more. But like say in the next generation of consoles, I don't know. I honestly probably would come down to what are my friends doing? The people that I want to play with, what are they playing on? And so I would probably go with the majority there.
Yeah. How about you, Christian? Is that how you feel as well?
Probably, yeah. I think that point that you made, Blue, is interesting because I think that's what Sony, one of the main reasons why Sony is so against making crossplay a thing is because they think that not allowing you to cross the streams of console manufacturers and companies makes people be like, okay, my friends are on PlayStation, so I'm going to get a PlayStation. And there's so many PlayStations out there that they are thinking, my friend and everyone else I know has a PlayStation, I might as well just get a PlayStation, and we don't need to worry about cross-play compatibility. But I'm not sure that that'll continue to be the case going forward, especially considering that PlayStation is kind of in their own little world over there, and everything else is starting to play together. Minecraft and Fortnite are probably the only two examples that anyone really notices, but I think that they're a big deal, and going forward, it will be interesting to see. I can't say I love my trophies, so I'm still going to buy a PlayStation. I'm still going to play PlayStation all the time, but I play Fortnite more on the Switch, just knowing that I'm supporting an ecosystem that communicates with more than just my PlayStation, because I tried to connect my PlayStation account to my Switch. That was the first thing I did, and it said does not work. And I said, okay, I had to create a new account, and now I just don't feel like playing Fortnite on PlayStation anymore.
Yeah. Do you think that... Oh, go ahead.
Just real quick, question to everybody, because Bethesda is embracing the whole crossplay compatible thing. Will you guys be buying that game just to say you support crossplay compatibility, or are you going to buy it or not buy it based on the game itself?
I
don't buy games based on crossplay compatibility. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Blue.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, I would say the same. If I was going to support a cause in gaming, crossplay compatibility probably wouldn't be the one that would be at the top of my list. I would rather buy the game based on its own merits, and then if it's crossplay compatible, then, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. That's on my sentiment as well. Do you think this is going to hurt the PS4 in the long run?
I think
that's
so.
A good point.
I think so. If they refuse to play nice with the other consoles, and then people will grow to expect it, and then they risk being left behind of a trend where suddenly maybe we don't need the PlayStation to be cross-compatible anymore because nobody's interested in it.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. In the long run, it'll hurt. It doesn't hurt them right now because they're sitting high and tidy, I think, with like 80 million sold worldwide. So there's plenty of PlayStations out there right now, but the PS5, I do see it affecting that once it comes out, because I feel like the one thing that hurt the PS3 was it was way more expensive than the Xbox 360 and the Wii. Yeah, the Wii. And, it didn't have these monster sales that the PS4 sees, but the PS4 is much more easier for the consumer, if that makes sense. And they did a lot of I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but they did a lot of PR work to try and, I guess, save face almost. Not that Sony necessarily needed it, especially after the success of the PS2. So they do got some money. But you did see them with the PS3. One of the reasons why it didn't do as well as the PS2 and now PS4 is just because of the pricing. And I could see the reason why possibly the PS5 might not be as successful is because of this whole crossplay compatible mess that they're facing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then really the thing that might steal it is if they had a failure of a console, like if they had a Wii U come out, you know, then that'd just be completely left behind and it would become a much bigger deal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they did have a failure. It was known as Vita. It wasn't a failure, but in their mind it was. I mean, Vita's awesome. I love my Vita, but Sony just didn't show it the love that it deserved. So, all right. Well, listeners, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think. Do you think crossplay compatibility is a big deal? You can reach us on our email. That's at info@gamerheadspodcast.com. You can reach us on Twitter at GamerHeadsPC, or Christian, how can they reach us on Facebook again?
Facebook.com/GamerHeadsPodcast.
Yes. All right. Before we go, let's go through the games that we are currently playing. And Blue, since you're our guest, what games are you currently playing?
All of them?
You're playing every single game out there right now? It's amazing.
Well, let's see. Okay, so I'm still working through, I'm working through God of War, I'm working through Ni no Kuni 2, Tomb Raider, Bastion, Cuphead, Pokemon Blue, Zelda Breath of the Wild, Hollow Knight, Donkey Kong, Tropical Freeze. There's more.
Holy cow. You are playing through a lot of games.
I wasn't lying earlier. I was not exaggerating.
What are you playing? What are you playing Bastion on?
On the Xbox One, and then I saw that it's coming to the Switch, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah, now you gotta get
I'd
on
so
the
much
Switch.
rather play it there.
I have it on the Vita. It is a good game. I do like it a lot. I love the music in that game. And Carrington, you guys interviewed the composer, right?
Yep. His name is
really?
Darren Korb. Yep, he was amazing. Yeah. Fantastic guest. Darren.
Yeah.
He was a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's you got some good games there. Christian, what are you playing right now besides the two that we already mentioned?
Yeah. Well, when you were talking about the two that we talked about, speaking of reviews, there's a review up on the site for The Messenger, which I finished within the last week.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, it's an indie game that came out last weekend, and it's out on Switch and PC. Apparently, it's getting review bombed on the PC because it doesn't allow rebinding of keys, which is interesting. I didn't realize that until after the fact. I was looking through the reviews, and they were like, negative. How can you release a game and not allow key binding? And I just played with controllers, so it was like playing on a console. But have any of you guys seen or heard of this game, The Messenger?
Yes.
I have heard of it.
Okay, heard of it.
I read Brian Shea from Game Informer. I read his review on it. It seems pretty cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. I ended up really enjoying it. It is very NES in its inspirations and sensibilities. It looks like an NES game. The animations are like an NES game, and enemies respawn after you go off screen like an NES game. And it's just a side-scrolling action platformer. And because of its NES inspirations, I feel like it's very much almost a spiritual successor to something like Shovel Knight for the most part, because Shovel Knight was very much inspired by early Nintendo NES games. And especially the first leg of this game, I think, was very much inspired by NES. The music is great, and it's also similarly NES inspired. But they're not afraid to put some modern design philosophies in there too. Like you get currency as you go along, and then you use that currency to make your way through this upgrade tree. So that's interesting. And the death penalty is also integrated in an interesting way. I don't know about you guys, but nowadays, whenever I play a game that has like currency, especially with this game in particular, I don't know why. Maybe it was because it was similar to Shovel Knight. I expected to die and it to be like Dark Souls, where I need to get back to where I died and to get my currency back in order to have it again. But I was kind of caught off guard by dying, and then that's not what happened. There's this little imp that follows you around, and he records your death, and then he's like, hey, I'll save you, but it's going to cost you. And so you go back to your last checkpoint, and then like a certain amount of currency that you get, that all goes to the imp. So it's like 50 currency, 50 soul shards or whatever. The first 50 you get, they'll go to the imp, and then he'll go away. And then the rest go to you now. So it's interesting. It's different. I don't know, from a gameplay perspective, I can't think of any real reason why it would significantly change how I play things one way or the other. It doesn't get rid of the currency that you currently have. So if you die, it's not like as bad in that sense, but it also always penalizes you. Whereas in Dark Souls, as long as you get back to where you died, or in what is it? Hollow Knight has a similar system where you die and you have to get back to get all of your stuff back. Instead of doing that, you just lose a certain amount of future currency. So it's different. I'm glad that they found a different way to penalize your deaths that wasn't just Dark Souls. And I thought it was pretty interesting. The game's writing is very self-aware. There's lots of fourth wall breaking humor. There's a shopkeeper that was probably my favorite because he has a lot of life lessons that don't really click or connect with your character because he doesn't really understand what's going on with the life lessons, and they're really entertaining. The writing overall is really good. The story, it starts out simple, but they kind of add more and more layers onto it, which I think is really cool. And I ended up really liking the story overall because of that. And the most interesting part about the messenger is that there are 2 turns that happen throughout the messenger that make it become almost entirely different games. And I'm not going to spoil what those turns are, but the first one I absolutely loved. I really liked that first turn, and it was probably one of my favorite video game moments this year, I think, almost, because it was just so awesome. I saw it, and I was happy, and I audibly gasped and went, yes, that's cool. And I think it would require a lot of effort on the developer's part to make sure that this first turn that happens does well and makes sense, and it would take a lot of effort to make it happen. But there's a second turn where kind of the game turns into a different genre, and that's one that I didn't like as much because I really liked what it was doing. I liked it as an NES-inspired action-adventure side-scrolling platformer like Shovel Knight because I played through Shovel Knight multiple times and I love it. And I felt like the Messenger could have been similar to that, but they do take it in a different direction, and I feel like it really draws things out, whereas this game takes somewhere in the realm of 25 hours to finish, which is pretty long, whereas Shovel Knight's 10 hours tops. So it really started kind of drawing itself out towards the end, and I didn't really like that all that much. But the first 4 hours, getting to that first turn was awesome. The next 4 hours after that turn are awesome. And things definitely do pick up eventually after you make it through the genre shift. You get to an ending section that's pretty awesome too. So overall, I think I came out of it really positive. I really liked it. It's like a retro gaming roller coaster ride. If you like NES stuff, you're really going to like it. And there's a turn in there that I really liked as well. So don't write it off while just looking at screenshots, and be careful when you're looking at these screenshots because that first turn is heavily featured in marketing material. And that's not something that I spoiled for myself, and I'm very glad I didn't, but it's really easy. I think I Google image searched it after the fact, looking at some screenshots and stuff. And there was one GIF where boom, spoiler. And this game doesn't have very good SEO. It doesn't have good search engine optimization because it's called The Messenger. And I think there's a movie called The Messenger. And so when you Google it, make sure you put game afterwards if you want to find it. But it's out on the Switch now, and I think it's a great game that you can play, and it's highly recommended. A great indie game, I think.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. What about you, Carrington?
Currently, I am going through Spider-Man, as you know. It's great. It's fantastic. I respectfully disagree with Christian's take on the story, but I also haven't finished it yet. But I do like your opinion. It was very well thought out. So I respectfully disagree.
Thank you,
you're very welcome. I'm still playing a lot of Overwatch, and I'm going through Destiny 2 Forsaken as well. I'm loving it. I am still in mourning right now because my dude Cade 6 still hurts my soul.
This is the second week now. You're still in mourning.
It still hurts. It's rough. But yeah, and as well, I'm also playing through Dead Cells and Hiroki as well on the Nintendo Switch.
Nice. Awesome. I disrespectfully disagree with you. Christian on the Spider-Man story. What the hell are you thinking? It's a great story.
Hey, fair enough.
No, I'm playing Spider-Man. I am loving the story. Again, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, so like I understand what you're saying, Christian.
Yeah.
To me though, I think that, I don't know, it's like comic booky, right? Like I just feel like there's certain tropes that are just going to be in Spider-Man because that's who Spider-Man is, and it's just I think if they would have went away from that, I think I would have been disappointed. So I'm glad that what they're doing so far in the story of what I've seen, his struggle as being Spider-Man and being Peter Parker, and his life struggles around that. I mean, that defines who Spider-Man is. So, also I have been playing some more Dead Cells. I made it to the Black Bridge, the first boss.
Nice.
Karen, have you made it that far? You have made it that far, then, Karen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have
you beaten that? Have you beaten the game?
I've beaten that first boss. Not the game, but I've beaten that first boss. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I haven't.
It's a fun fight. Very fun fight.
No, the first time I made it there, I actually almost beat him, and I was like really proud of myself, and I was like, I can do this again. And the second time, my second run, I made it to him, and I got my butt handed to me, and I was just like, okay, but it was due to my drops. I just didn't have the same weapons. This one, yeah.
I will say, if you can find the frost thing that freezes him, that helps a ton.
Yes, that's what I had the first time, and that helped a lot. So, and I played a little bit, like one playthrough of, like I said, of Night Trap, and I have to figure that game out because I don't really understand what I was doing. I've been playing Into the Breach as well on the Switch. I'm really liking that. And then I am playing a game that I can't really talk about right now, but we'll review it next week.
Ooh.
Yeah.
There's a Mega Man 11 demo that came out this weekend.
I played that too. That's right. I did play that.
Did you beat the boss?
No.
I beat the boss.
Anybody that knows me, I don't beat any bosses.
Fair enough.
So I did not beat him. No, I can beat like Mega Man 2's first boss, and maybe two bosses I can on Mega Man 2, but that's not cool. It's bad. That's what I was saying in the beginning of the game, or the beginning of this podcast. Is my title would be Who Tries? Who Tries?
What did you think of the Mega Man 11 demo, Roger?
I liked the way it looked. I liked the aesthetic to it. I don't know. I felt like the controls were a little delayed.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I didn't feel like they were as tight as maybe like Dead Souls were to me. But that's just me.
I see. How you said that you played a little bit of Mega Man 2, Roger? Have any of you guys played any Mega Man?
Like Mega Man 11 or just Mega Man in general?
Just Mega Man in general.
Yeah, not since I was like 8.
Yeah. What about you, Carrington?
I was more of a fan of Mega Man the cartoon show when I was growing up as a kid, but I didn't start playing Mega Man games until recently.
Yeah. That's similar for me. I haven't started playing Mega Man until it wasn't extremely recently, but like 6 years ago was when I started playing Mega Man, and I played through Mega Man's 1 through 6 like 2 times each, at least 2 times each, and then I've played through like Mega Man 1 through 3 like 2 or 3 times. I played through Mega Man 2 more times than I could ever count because I love Mega Man 2. It's one of my favorite games ever. And so I find the Mega Man numbered series lineage very interesting and fascinating because this one, they're slapping the 11 number on there. And so you always got to you got to take a step back. And you got to be like, okay, you're saying this is a numbered sequel. What does that mean? We had Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, what was it, 5? Yeah. Which was a complete dumpster fire. Mm-hmm. So that made me very hesitant for something like this, where they're trying to, maybe kind of get back to the classic stuff. But what I like about this is that it is very similar and feels like a classic Mega Man game. You pick from 8 bosses at the beginning. You have different weapons. You make it through different screens. And I also liked how at least the demo stage was legitimately challenging. There were platforming puzzles and good enemy placement that felt very like akin to a classic Mega Man game. But there's a couple of weird mechanics in there. There's this thing called mode switching, which isn't in any other Mega Man game, where you like can go into slow motion or you can shoot a bunch really fast. That was kind of weird. It wasn't exactly clicking with me all that well, and it felt like maybe it was just a little busy as far as mechanics were concerned, because I'm just a sucker for Mega Man. I'm biased against Mega Man 2 because I love Mega Man 2 and it's simple and I can play it for fun whenever. Whereas this one, there's a little bit going on there that's, beyond me as a person who loved the original series, the original 1 through 6. But I think at $30, I think that's a pretty good asking price for what you're getting here. I think if it was $20 or even $25, it would be an easy purchase for me after playing this demo. But I think I'm tempted to wait and see because I love Mega Man. I'm just not sure about this 11 one.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I was going to say, because the Mega Man creator is no longer attached because he went on to go and create the greatest game ever made, being Mighty Number 9. So does this, without the original creator attached to it, does it still feel Mega Man-ish? Because I haven't got a chance to play it yet.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, absolutely. The jump animation is there, and it feels like classic Mega Man. And the art style was something that I was very hesitant about because I wasn't sure whether or not they were going to continue the 1 through 6 thing like they did. They made Mega Man 9 and 10 a few years ago on PS3 and Xbox 360, and those were basically NES games that they put out on the PlayStation Network and Xbox Store. So this is kind of similar to that. It just has a nicer art style to it. So it feels good. And I've played Mega Man or Mighty Number 9. That also made me very hesitant for this because boy, I did not like Mighty Number 9.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll have to give it another shot. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's not the mechanics. Maybe it's it just didn't feel like, I mean, I was playing Dead Cells and I went to this and I just feel like Dead Cells I can move much faster and run a lot, and just know, be able to jump, and I feel like I have a lot more control over my character. There was that part where spoiler alert, but it's a demo, but the walls are coming after you, right? And you have to like get through all the puzzle part. Yeah. And I just had a hard time, like I felt like if that was a Dead Cells level, I would have made that through pretty quickly. I just struggled that with Mega Man, like jump shoot. Okay, he didn't seem to do what I want him to do. Why not? Like, I don't know.
I see what you're saying.
I don't know. It could be me because I'm not a good player either. So take that for the grain of salt.
You just need to get good.
Yeah, that's right. He tries. All right. So before we go, then let's go around and tell people how they can get a hold of us or how they can follow us on the social networks. Blue, how can people read your reviews and your articles that you write, and how can people follow you on Twitter or Facebook too?
Probably the easiest way. I'm not on Facebook, but on Twitter, my handle is @WritersView, and it's WRYTERS View, all one word. From there, I always post links to everything that I do elsewhere. So you can find everything that I've written that way, or you can go directly to the sites. There's the lootgaming.com, there's the wellreadmage.com, and it's red like the color because he's super clever like that. And so those are both great sites and lots of content and lots of different writers. So it wouldn't just be me you would be finding. It would be all kinds of talented people and all kinds of reviews and think pieces and stuff like that. So very interesting sites. I also have a blog that is not gaming related, writersview.com. So you can find stuff there, but yeah, be forewarned, it's not going to be all games.
Cool. Yeah, and I encourage everybody to go check out your articles, because I think the thing that I really enjoyed about your writing was that, it's the same thing that I think that we took with the perspective of this podcast is, it's not just talking about like, let's just talk about games and how cool games are. Like, you talk about like more deeper relevant issues, and even the rage quitting article, like I thought that was really well done and really interesting, so people should go out and check you out. I loved your writing, so
thank you. I appreciate that. That's super nice.
Carrington, how can people get a hold of you?
At DesertFear90 on the old Twitters, and then you can also follow me on my show that I'm also on, Real Dudes Podcast, so at Real Dudes _pod on Twitter, at Real Dudes Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and then you can also email the show at podcast@realdudespodcast.com.
Nice. Christian.
I am on Twitter at Christian Cubs, or I'm watching the Facebook GamerHeads channel at facebook.com/GamerHeadsPodcast.
Yeah. So if you message Facebook, you're not talking to me. You're talking to Christian. I'll tell you that right now.
Unfortunately, that's the case.
Yeah. Unfortunately or fortunately?
Unfortunately.
I think it's fortunately, because me, I'm just like, cool, man. That's awesome. Although I will say, like, I do pay attention to it, and every once in a while I'll see the really funny things. And I don't know if you see this at all, Carrington, but you will see, hey, do you want to get a lot of listens on iTunes? Just hire me. And no. Respond right now. No, we're not going to respond at all, because we're going to do it the legit way and not hire somebody who I don't even know who you are. So I always think those are funny. I'm glad that you're taking care of those, Christian, because I don't have to deal with that.
No worries, Roger.
We don't get those nearly as much anymore. Maybe it's just because we stopped responding.
Maybe. But Christian's all really nice about it. He's like, oh, thank you so much, but we're going to try it. We're going to do it the legit way. And I'm just like, did you tell him just to back off or bug off? I might have used other words. And he's just like, no, I said it, well, in a nice, polite way. Yeah. And then you can follow the GamerHeads on Twitter as well as GamerHeads PC. You can also follow us you can get a hold of us in email. It's info@gamerheadspodcast.com, or you can email me directly at roger@gamerheadspodcast.com, or Christian at gamerheadspodcast.com as well. All right. Thank you, Blue, again. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, no problem. It was a lot of fun. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Carrington.
Anytime. I'll be here in replace of whichever host you want me to replace.
At this point, you might be a regular. I'm not sure. And then, Christian, thank you so much.
Thank you for your time, Roger.
Well, thank you. And thank you, listeners, for your time. Check us out again next week. We'll have a new episode. See ya.